teachers, the teachers, the teachers, the teachers.
My brothers and sisters of color, we gotta do better. No survival in this era if we turning on each other. Like a family reunited, they hate it when we together. Now let's talk about it. Listen to the teachers, let them tell you. You want facts behind your questions, Dr. Rick, give them the answer. Followed by wise words, introducing Dr. Michael Blanchard. Many guests and activists every week leading by example. When there's problems, there's solutions. Together we are the answer.
The teachers.
All right, hello everybody. It's Dr. Rick Wallace here, dropping in on you with my partner in crime, Dr. Michael Blanchard, Michael K. Blanchard. Let me put it out there right, Dr. Michael K. Blanchard, the Dr. Michael K. Blanchard, and together we are the teachers. I'm excited. Today we have a very accomplished brother, Dr. Michael Grant, who is going to share with us his journey and talk about some of the work that he is currently doing, and hopefully drop some powerful jewels on us that we can take and apply to how we're moving in this world today. Today's episode is brought to you by Black Men Lead, the Rite of Passage initiative created by yours truly. That we are trying to take national. You can show your support by supporting us. You can see in the description box the way you can do that. Also, that beautiful, cool little intro that you just heard, that was executive produced by the Dr. Michael K. Blanchard and it's performed by Sane Brown. And we're going to leave the link that you can actually go pick up the full single. And the goal is to get behind more music and produce more positive music so that we can have that avenue, because we know, if we've done our work, that music is one of the most powerful gateways into the minds of our youth. And if we don't control the music, we have very little ability to develop the youth in the way that we want to. So there's actually a method behind the madness of first doing this. And I want to commend my brother Doc and welcome into the fold of music. And I'm going to be laughing all the way because he's going to find out just how fun it is. But I'm actually excited about it. So Doc, again, it was you that brought Dr. Michael Grant to my attention. I found out just recently that Dr. Grant was aware of my work and what I've been doing. And that's always exciting. In the corner that we operate in, we tend to move in the shadows. And so when you find people you admire that are aware of you and admire your work, it's those are the things that matter to me. What the average person thinks, or I don't need the approbation or approval of the average person, because the average person isn't active in what I'm doing. They're not putting in the work. But when someone else that is putting in the work say, "Hey, I'm checking you out," then hey, I'm with that. So Doc, talk to Doc. and let's see what we got here.
Yeah, so I wanted to have Dr. Grant on because he was doing a program that is right up my alley, Doc. Wraparound services is basically all the things that we do to obtain student growth and student persistence and get kids to grow and graduate from high school, graduate from college, socialization that you and I talk about, Doc. So I wanted to have him on to talk about what he's doing with the Fort Pierce Athletics Academy. So Doc, I'm gonna ask you the first question, man. Tell us a little bit about your upbringing first, your family life, your schooling, how you got into doing wraparound services, involved in student persistence, student growth. I know you also have been in college admissions for well over 20 years. So this seems like a perfect match for you. What you're.
Right. Guys, I tell you, it's been a journey. I started my career out as a college football coach. My college football coach gave me a job at Fort Valley State University, where I played college football and got a 4-year degree. But after graduating, my college coach brought me back and put me on the staff. And what he did was with me, I thought I was going to be this great college coach when I first took the job, but he put me in the equipment room and I made coffee for the rest of the coaches. I was a young guy, 22, 23 years old. But the experience in the equipment room, taught me so much about the psychology of sports, and having to, as an assistant coach and the equipment coordinator, taught me so much about organization and taught me so much about how to run the operations of a sports program. Did not know at the time that was the education I was getting from my great coach, Coach Doug Porter, who was actually friends with Eddie Robinson. They were best friends, and so he was one of the winningest coaches in HBCU football as well. But the education that I got there, as I grew as a young coach, started to kind of propel me to seeing that this was what was much bigger than sports. I had an opportunity to go into a lot of family homes. And taught with single moms who were sending their kids off to college, sending young men off to college, didn't have the money, didn't understand what college choice was all about. Mm-hmm. And being able to educate those families at the time propelled me to go on to pursue a master's degree in enrollment management. Because I understood that I was going to be working at a college. I knew that I was going to be in higher education, not secondary education, but higher education, because I understood that platform. I had been trained in that platform. So I got a master's degree in enrollment management because I was a recruiter. I sold higher education. That's what it was, the sale of higher education. And that's what we do. There are products in higher education that the general public needs to create these, what we call career pathways for themselves, but they need the understanding of what all of that means. So I have a master's degree in enrollment management. So I actually tell colleges and universities how to grow their enrollment. And in doing so, as my career started to grow more, I got off into international admissions, where, of course, my family's from Barbados. And I had an opportunity to go home in 2003 and work for the Ministry of Education there, where I ran an actual physical education program for an all-boys school. And I created this program called the Confidence Program, where I took these young men who had not won a championship in forever. And I'll give you the story. In Barbados, the high school championships is the biggest event of the year in a kid's life on a small island. Now, when I got this school, guys, I was coming in and they hadn't won the championship never. And so we got an opportunity to go in the first year and compete. I brought 1,100 young men together and we put a team together and we competed. But out of this program, what I got out of this was, you have to build the confidence level of kids when you're working with them. It's all about them understanding what confidence really means. And then it's the coaching side of it, the academic side of it that you work with, because a lot of these kids were told early on that they were not academically solid. They were not academically competitive. And we all know that competition is a part of life. And it's about you preparing yourself. And if you're prepared, you win. So, we did that. I think we ranked second in the country in the second year. And then I got an opportunity to come back to the States to be the assistant head coach and running backs coach at Morehouse College, where I had previously coached before. But one of my good friends Terry Buford got the head coach job there. And I was back in Georgia in the SIAC as the assistant head coach and running backs coach and recruiting coordinator. So had an opportunity to coach Denzel Washington's son, J.D. Washington. And so as we persist on, I brought in 5 kids from Barbados. Right, I brought them with me. I gave them full scholarships to come and do track and field and to study. These were brilliant boys. One of the young men that I brought with me was Ramon Harwood. Ramon was a physics major, and he was 6'7", 340 pounds. And I told him in secondary school in Barbados, I said, "Man, you're an NFL football player." He didn't know what I was talking about. We don't play football in Barbados. He didn't know what I was talking about. I said, "Just do everything I tell you to do. Follow me. I got you." So I brought him to Morehouse with me. And guys, he got drafted in the 5th round from the Baltimore Ravens.
Wow. Played
in the Super Bowl. Got a Super Bowl ring. And so when you think about what your journey, how your journey globally takes you, this is the effect of your work, and you hear me use the term college choice, how we teach families how to go to college. And this is my work. This has been my work over the last 25 years, understanding student development and student persistence. I talk to colleges all the time and about enrollment and how to grow their enrollments and how important, understanding these frameworks are, and so, but as my career moved on, I was still coaching, still doing my thing. And then I decided in 2014 to move away from the full-time coaching experience of college ball and move full-time into administration and becoming a full-time college administrator. And that's what I've been doing until this year. I was at Indian River State College as the Director of Enrollment Management. Here's another startling statistic. I came in 2018 and they were trying to win the Aspen Award. The Aspen Award is a prestigious award given to state colleges around the nation for their ability to enroll students and to complete students. So I came in and was given the task of writing an enrollment plan for this state college right here in Florida. And we ended up winning the Aspen Award in 2019, #1 school in the nation.
Wow.
And then COVID hit, of course. And so, but when we talk about what I'm doing with kids now, I got off back into opening the Fort Pierce Athletic Academy, and here's why I did it. There's a need. The NCAA in 2021 embarked a rule called the transfer portal, and that portal now is affecting high school kids and their ability to get scholarships. Because now you have virtually free agency in the NCAA,
right?
Because kids have the one-time transfer rule. When I was, coaching full time, they couldn't do that. They had to sit out. If you were Division I or Division II, you had to sit out before you played, or Division I, you had to sit out before you played Division II. So all that got scrapped. Now you're eligible as you transfer. But however, that affects high school kids who are, the thousands and thousands of kids who are playing college sports. That affects their ability to get seen by colleges because they now have the rule. The rule is in place, and they go to the portal. There are thousands of kids in the portal.
For people who don't understand that, I did college athletics, so I understand those rules. Especially the transfer rules. What in essence happens now is if there's a quarterback who's not happy with what's being played, his playing time, or how he's being handled, whether he's a starter or a backup, or maybe he was promised a start gig and he didn't get it and he's disgruntled. And there's a coach over at UCLA and they're saying, "Hey, look, you can start right now." Well, that kid used to be, that kid knew I can't play next year because if I transfer, I got to sit out a year. So I can't go. So they knew that he knew, first of all, the team that you have now might not be the team that I end up quarterbacking. And the coach also knew the same thing. So they look for their talent first in high school, seniors.
Right.
Well, now coaches are looking at other players on especially on the top level, the top 20 schools.
Right.
It's a lot of talent in there on the bench.
Exactly.
Okay, so now that's where they're going, because a lot of these kids already understand what it's like to play at the college level. They're going to be easy to bring in and integrate, and they're going to have probably a more immediate impact. So what happens? You stop recruiting as heavily in the high school ranks, and you stop giving out as many of those scholarships to them, and those other kids start to get them.
Exactly.
And so that's what basically was being relayed, and now it creates a problem. And we're talking about athletics, but we're really talking about education.
Exactly. So what this also does is, when you look at many of these kids who are coming out of high school today, don't understand the 16 required to even be eligible. They don't even understand that there are certain courses that you have to take to be eligible for the NCAA. So here's where our academy comes in. We do a full evaluation on these kids. We take the student's transcript, and we do an evaluation, and we look at the SEED report, and that's the report that the NCAA has out there, that all high schools send their eligible courses to the NCAA. And we go and we take that SEED report and we do a full evaluation of a student athlete's transcript. And then we look at those courses that they've taken to make sure that they've taken the right courses, and if they're going to reach the 16. Well, for the academy, we offer what is called credit recovery. So, and it's sanctioned by the NCAA. So we can actually give those kids an online course to recover a credit that they may have not done well in, and they recover it with us. Or they may need a credit and they can take it with us. So in essence, what we do is we help these kids to understand what the eligibility center is trying to tell them from an action standpoint. Like you said, they may not understand it. I talk to parents every day, guys, that that I have to coach through what the NCAA is asking them to do. Mm-hmm. So our academy and why I chose to go into post-grad sports is because there's a middle ground here. It doesn't affect your eligibility. You come to us for 5 months, and we have an opportunity to really impact the kid, both academically, athletically, socially. And then once they leave us, we also give them those social skills and leadership skills that they need to move forward with their careers, whether that career is an academic career or an athletic career. But at the same time, we also work as a liaison for that student. Because of our background in college sports, I'm a member of the American Football Coaching Association, have been for over 25 years. So I have an opportunity to talk with coaches about these kids who are in our academy to get them re-recruited and remarketed. More importantly, I also have an opportunity to take them through true college choice, help them choose a college that's a financial fit and an academic fit as it relates to their program. One of the things that we pride ourselves in as far as our mission is concerned with our academy is we want completion. We want kids to come into our academy that's going to complete our academy, but more and at the same time complete a college degree. Because many kids who go on to play college sports don't graduate.
Right.
They don't go graduate. They chase the NFL. Yeah. So we track our kids, for 4 years. Because again, I say this to you, I'm an enrollment manager. And part of starting my business is taking that enrollment management to the private sector. So I look at these. I take a student, our student body, and we look at the entry of that student, the retention of that student, and the completion of that student. We want completers, because if we got completers, then we have kids who are graduating with degrees, and particularly young men that are graduating with degrees and now setting out to that career pathway.
Hey, not only that, Doc, you have students that are graduating with no student loan debt.
Exactly.
And being an educator myself, I hear a lot of students say that, and most of them are non-athletes, but a lot of times they'll say, hey, what's going to be the return on the investment of an education? When I went to Indiana University, 30 years ago, it was $5,000 a year. That included everything.
Right.
30 years later, when my two oldest daughters graduated from Indiana University, it was $35,000 a year. So talk a little bit about, as an former admissions person and also a coach and everything, and dealing with student persistence and admissions. What are some of the challenges that you face, both with athletes, getting them qualified, to go to the next level?
Guys, you hear me use the term college choice, and I use this term because it defines how kids and families go to college. Many kids learn about college, and when we think about college choice, let's talk about the predetermined phase. The predetermined phase are those kids in 7th and 8th grade who are first time learning about college, and they may go to a college fair. They may, get information from a college, because many colleges send information out to 7th and 8th graders. Because again, they understand the predetermined phase, and we do a lot of work in the middle schools and so forth for that predetermined phase. But then there's a phase that they go to now when they get to 8th, 9th, and 10th grade, where they're going to what is called selectivity, where they're actually selecting schools because they're now going to college fairs. They're getting more information, and schools know this. Universities know this. That's why they give information early in the 7th and 8th grade. And then by 11th and 12th grade, choice begins. In other words, I can now choose a college, because I'm choosing a college now. I'm not selecting one, I'm choosing one. And with this choice, you have to understand that families need to be coached on financial fit. Mm-hmm. Many families don't save for college. They don't save for college. Right. Student athletes play ball, and many parents feel that they're Division I football players, and everybody's going to go to the division, to major college. Everybody's going to go to the league, and they have this embedded in them because that's what they know, the extent of what they know. But as an admissions person, we understand that we have 300, 400, 500 different products on the shelf, academic products on the shelf, whether it's a bio major, whether it's an English major, whether it's a criminal justice major. All of these are products. These programs are products. So we have to be able to coach these kids in that college choice to what program do you want to study in school? And then in whatever college you choose, you have to understand the profile of that university. Let me give you an example of that. I worked as the international coordinator for the University of South Florida, and my countries were Latin America, the Caribbean, and West Africa. And I had to go and recruit kids out of those countries. But the one thing that a lot of kids didn't understand was that most universities are what you call, particularly research universities, are what you call profile schools. In other words, if a kid is getting ready to go to college, from an admission standpoint, they need to go to that school's website and look at the profile of the freshman class. And it'll tell them, it'll say 3.8 GPA, 1,500 on the SAT. Those are the students that we're going to admit. And if you don't have that, then you're not going to get admitted. In most cases, there are a few cases that you will be admitted, but most schools are not going to move away from their freshman profile, right? Mm-hmm. And because again, that's where the academic funding is going to come from. A lot of the programs who are getting top students are going to be looking at those top students coming in, but that's the university's profile. And then so we have to coach our kids to understanding how to meet that profile from the admission standpoint, right? I was a Black college student. I went to to a historical Black college, and I worked in HBCUs, and I'll tell you that from my perspective, there's no greater place and no greater experience than that HBCU because of what it teaches, and then also how it gets away from the profile and really gets into career, right? So when we look at these things, these are a lot of the things that we have to coach families when we're talking to them about college going.
Yeah, so I agree with you. I'm in K through 12 schools weekly,
right?
And I think we're really missing something in K through 12. And, you know, Dr. Wallace and I've talked about this a lot, you know, in that we're missing something in the curriculum as far as socialization and, you know, kids, student persistence, graduating, all of those things, student growth, those things have to be fostered. But then you have to have the right people, the right teachers. You have to have enough, you know, teachers that share your same lineage and culture and all of those things to make the connection. How do you feel about that? You know, what are we missing in K through 12 that even makes it a reality to even have to have your program?
I think we look at the history of education, right? And let's go to the history of higher education. You go historically and look at how curriculums have changed over time, right? You know, in the history of higher education, you know, many of our schools were industrial schools. They were training people to go to work. Many of the programs that students were coming to study were based on workforce. But then we got into liberal arts, and now we start looking at research programs and looking at the liberal arts curriculum. But when you go, but in K-12, you know, K-12, you know, has a stricter curriculum where we're just graduating kids out of high school. Right. You graduate 4 years of English, 4 years of math, science. You know, you look at 5 at the core: English, math, or social science, or natural science, and a foreign language, and that's what they're focused on. But I think in today's 21st century education, we need to go back and we need to recapture the industrial education. You know, we need more certificates coming out of high school. One of the things that I applaud the state of Florida for is dual enrollment, where you can actually get an AA degree coming out of high school.
Right, absolutely.
You know, but we need more minority kids enrolling in these dual enroll courses. It's free college. It's not AP. It's not IB. You take a course, you get the college credit.
Yeah.
Right. And we need to really desensitize a lot of our minority students into how to take a test and to have them, you know, take these tests, get into dual enrollment, and really begin to get a college degree before they leave high school. Because you think about it, I have an AA in the 12th grade. Now I only have to pay for 2 years of college. Going back to your question on the cost of school, you know, it's free. It's free. You don't have to pay for those courses. So when we go back to the history of it, you know, we need to look at how well we build certificates, and then we're seeing it in education now. We're seeing a lot of the academies that they're putting into place because, again, workforce, right?
Right.
A lot of kids are getting workforce in high school, and they're going into these academies and getting certificates. And believe me, I'm a proponent of the stackable, right? Let's stack our degree. Start with a certificate. I love what I was doing. Well, now let's go get an AS or an AA degree because I like what I was doing. Okay, well, let's keep going. Let's get a BS degree now. So that's the stackable approach to a degree.
Right.
And if some point I want to disengage or the education process to go to work, I'm okay because I have the credentials to go into the workforce and to get a viable wage.
What do you think about the trades, Doc? The trades is also something in Florida that they move towards too.
Most definitely.
Electrician, plumber, you know, technology, IT.
And that's what I mean by the clock hour courses. You know, the clock hour certificates. You know, those are the trades. Let's go back to the industrial mindset of putting people to work and training these kids, whether they want to go to college or not. Training these kids to a profession. Right.
I think the word you used, actually, before I say this, it's important to put it out there because I want to acknowledge this person. They followed us for a while. One of our loyal subscribers who goes solely on here as K. Early on, I don't know if you guys noticed, I've been typing going back and forth. He lost his 33-year-old cousin to suicide.
Oh, wow.
And we've been talking about mental health a lot lately. So I think we'll kind of close out on that. But I just wanted to acknowledge, and I'm saying he, I mean, I don't know because it could be a she, it's just K. And I know they're always there. But the language tells me it's a he. But anyway, I want to say that. and we'll deal with it later. But something that you said earlier ties into what you're talking about now. When we talk about K-12, we're talking about moving into higher learning institutions. We're talking about, I said when I wrote The Miseducation of Black Youth in America, that we have to understand the dynamic of education beyond the attainment of academic skills, because you got a lot of degreed people that aren't prepared to enter into the workforce, or they're degreed in areas where there's no great demand, so there's no high pay. And okay, so the idea of education is in the way that I define it, and you tell me what you think about it. The way I define education is it's a holistic approach and process in which we prepare and empower our youth to become adults that can go out into a world that is inherently hostile towards them and not only compete, but win. And so when we talk about how we're going to educate our kids, we need to look at, like you said, some of those career positions. And see, that's the thing. You used the term earlier, and it was sort of like an ancillary mention. It wasn't the direct point, but it's culture and career.
Right.
Has to be you have to have an understanding when you're actually preparing a kid, culture and career.
Right.
What are you going to do for your life that's going to provide for you at a level that you can live without struggling? And that's not going to put you in a point to where you're 50 before you break even.
Right.
And so, and I think that, having someone like you be in the forefront of this is huge. And the thing is, more people need to know you're there.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Right. I think that, one of the things that, research shows that a couple of years ago, I was looking at some statistics that said that 80% of China's millionaires were under the age of 40.
Wow.
And what that light bulb came on for me when we talk about entrepreneurs and we talk about culture in our community is the fact that we've got to now teach this. We've got to teach what entrepreneurship means to our community. Like you said, you don't want to be 50 years old breaking even. We need to teach, the stock market. We need to teach finance. I think finance is a big part of any curriculum. Absolutely. And business is a big part of any curriculum. Because these are real life education programs. They're real life. This is what you're going to use in real life. We can go out and we can go and get the most fantastic degree. But at the end of the day, where does it fit in the community? Where does it fit in our culture? And then how does it economically fit me? We all have terminal degrees. We have terminal degrees. We studied. We wrote our dissertations. We defended them. Right. So, but what do you do with this terminal degree? Do you take it and you put it on somebody else's shelf, or do you take it and put it in your community and now go to work with it and really start to make real change happen? Right.
Right. And that's what I talk about. That's the difference between, Doc, a person that just holds a doctorate and a person that is a scholar, because you're actually using what you learned. Right. You're able to get the results,
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And what I can tell you from my experience is that my idea of it lends right to what Dr. Grant was talking about. I'd never pursued higher education as a means of employment because I never intended on being an employee.
Right.
And that was my mindset. So my mindset was actually the pursuit of the doctorate degree was I wanted to know how to effectively do research at the highest, most acceptable level.
Right, correct.
And so I wanted to know that I wanted to protect myself from bias. I wanted to be able to do something that could withstand literary review. I wanted to be able to have it so where it could withstand peer review. I wanted to be able to sit up and say, okay, here it is. This is how I did it. You go repeat it and tell me what you get. I wanted to be able to have a conversation and know why I was standing on. Had nothing to do with my emotions. And so that was it. I never did it to be accepted. I never did it for people to say you have I did it because in it was something I was going to use. Then I was going to take it and probably never write a paper the way you taught me to write it ever again, because I wasn't interested in you anymore. I now write and publish based off of what I need to produce, and the people I want, I write for them to understand it.
Right.
But the thing is, what are you going to do with it? And the thing is, that's a conversation that Dr. Blanchard and I have had for years, is have you applied your expertise in a way that you've had an impact on the things that you're passionate about?
Right.
And for me, I'm passionate about obviously providing for my family, but I'm passionate about making sure that we empower the next generation. And I know that the school system as it is constructed has never been about empowerment. And so then you've got to create the elements and components to connect to it with wraparound services, with awareness, and with an approach. And this whole idea of literally choosing your educational or academic path with an understanding that I'm doing it for a purpose. Most people, you got to understand, we're just coming into probably the second generation of expected college degrees.
Right.
You know, where now almost everybody's now expected to get a college degree. This is about the second generation. We are just one generation removed where we got a bunch of people, the first people to ever graduate college in their family. Mm-hmm. So the goal was to get a degree. It didn't matter in what. I am the first person that got a degree. I'm making $35,000 a year, but I got a degree.
Right.
And
that's what it was all about. That's what it was all about.
It was about that thing, and I get it. But my whole thing is, what we should be doing is saying, yes, I want to advance myself academically, but how can I do it? Because here's some of the things. There's not a whole lot of sparkles that go off when you say become a plumber. There's not a whole lot of light and shine and celebration when you say become an electrician. But most of those people are owning their own businesses after doing their apprenticeships and making six figures.
Exactly.
And so the people with the degrees looking down on them are actually not even matching half of what they make.
And, you know, we see that all the time, Doc. I think that we're now moving into, when people ask me about enrollment, and I tell them, I said, today's enrollment is not what we saw in 2000, what we saw in 10, 20 years ago. Right. Today's student is not looking for a degree.
No.
Today's student is looking for an opportunity to become an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
They want to be able to use their creativity, because these kids are getting things that we didn't have. They're getting access to software very early in life that we could have never imagined.
Right.
So because of the technology age, and I always tell people, globalization is 80% technology. Mm-hmm. Because you should be able to take your technology and put it in any community, anywhere in the world, and be able to connect. Mm-hmm. So when we look at what you just mentioned, Dr. Rick, it's the next generation of educated people are going to be entrepreneurs. Yeah. And they're going to be business minded. They're going to take your product that you put on the shelf, your academic product, and they're going to use it to their entrepreneur ability. When I wrote my dissertation, I researched students what they call system thinking, because I was a mechanic in mind. My mindset was a mechanic. It wasn't about an academic writing. It was about the mechanics of how systems work. Mm. So I wanted to know why systems were not thinking. And then this is why problems were being caused in organizations, whether it was the technology or the organizational chart, because your system is not thinking right. And you have to understand where these holes are in your system. Well, these kids have figured that out too. That's why they can come into your room and you're like, hey man, where did you get that degree from, or where did you get that information? They do their research.
Right.
I know they do. I talk to them every day. They research everything they want to know. You know, and you're looking around like, wow, I missed that one. Man, you got one up on me on that one. So I think our next generations of students are getting smarter. They're getting more aware, and they are capturing things that we would have never imagined in a lifetime because we were so theoretically driven. They're not.
Yeah.
They're actionized.
Right.
They're
Here's something. You tell me what you think about that. Excuse me. Still battling a sinus infection. Tell me what you think about. This is something that I picked up on probably about. Now, I've known about it for years, probably about maybe 12, 14 years. And I use it as a means of keeping myself sharp. But there are a lot of major institutions, MIT, Harvard, Princeton, Yale, University, that offer free programs.
Oh, for sure.
Online programs. I mean, complete courses.
Yeah.
And I have found that there's a growing number of people that are using them, not for the sake of saying officially I've been schooled at, but getting the core elements and components of how something works. Now I can go online and create a reality online with that and become an expert at it by marketing myself and presenting myself. And I can bypass all of the other need for approval, acceptance, and validation from anybody. And I have literally went through a course at a celebrated institution. I've completed several psychology programs at MIT.
Right.
And, who would ever thought that a school known for technology would offer comprehensive programs for some very respected professors. But the whole goal is what's out there now. What's the new school of thought? What's going on? What may I miss? And you get to do all of that. But there are people that don't know anything about it that just dive into it.
Well, because let's think about it. Education has changed. People ask me about my academy and they go, where's your building? I go, we don't have a building. We don't need a building, right? Because brick and mortar is over, right?
Yeah, for a while now.
Yeah, so it's over. Like, so you think you're going to drive up to my campus and see my building? No, because I understand that there's a thing called modality, right? So in modality, you have a face-to-face modality. That's traditional education. And then you have an online modality that's where we are right now today. And it's not going backwards. I promise you it's not.
No.
And then there's a hybrid approach where you come in face-to-face or you may take some classes online.
Right.
But as you said, Dr. Rick, these are the things that are changing before our eyes, because I can go on now and use the online modality and I can take courses anywhere because universities are creating products every day. And they're creating products for the market. They're doing their market research, right? And that's why when we talk about college choice, we have to be able to take the market research and give it to the family. I tell kids all the time when I'm talking with them, if they're a senior in high school, I say, I want you to go out and Google the top 5 professions when you graduate from college, not when you graduate from high school. I want you to Google those professions, and I want you to tell me where do you fit in those professions after you graduate from college. And they come back and tell me, most of the professions moving forward in the next 10 years are going to all be centered around AI. That's it. That's it. It's all centered around AI. The old professions that you thought you were going to school for 10 years, 20 years ago, that they were teaching you in high school, gone. If you're not focused on AI and everything centered around AI, I'm telling you, companies that's the new deal, man. That's the new deal. And again, I see it every day in higher education, product change, because you look at the programs that primary programs of study that students are choosing now today: digital media, IT, cybersecurity, plumbing. They know the deal, man. They know the deal, and so we've got to be prepared to be able to guide them and coach them through what's going to happen in the next 5 to 10 years.
So yeah, Doc, that business model, that's what I was getting to with K through 12 and in colleges. That business model's got to change because, like you said, the millennials, they're rejecting the how we came out. We graduated from high school at 18 and we went straight into college. A lot of them are saying, "Hey, I don't want to go that route."
I don't want to go that route.
I don't want to take on $100,000 worth of debt.
No,
there's a house payment.
Right, yeah, because they come out. All of us, we came out with student loans and probably loans more than the house we own.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because we were chasing this credential. Unfortunately, in a credential-driven environment, we were chasing the credential that they said we needed to get this approval in corporate America or in government or in education. We're all educators, and education calls for so many credentials. But at the end of the day, does the match of your credentials feed your family?
Absolutely.
And now you've got to come to a point in your career where you say to yourself, I got to break out of this one. I got to break out of this building.
Yeah.
I got to break out, and I've got to go be an entrepreneur in education. And I've got to take my research and I got to put it into my community.
And we're seeing a mass exodus. I don't know if you, I'm
seeing it. I'm seeing a mass exodus of educators going out on their own now.
Yeah, of administrators, of superintendents, of teachers, a mass exodus, and that's concerning, it's also concerning that, 30 years ago when we were in college, 22% of all the degrees were educators.
Yeah,
now it's 6% today.
Yeah, because of the standardized testing to become an educator. You know why that's what's driving. This is my perspective, right? I'm entitled to it. I just think that it's calling for a lot of credentialing, and at the end of the day, as Dr. Rick said, I got a degree, but I'm getting $35,000.
Right. Yeah.
You know what I mean? $40,000, and you want me to go do all of that?
Right.
So I think that's what's kind of, people are getting smarter about what they do with these degrees, because at the end of the day, it has to be value added.
Yeah, yeah.
It has to be value added to your life, to your family's life. It has to be.
Right.
Yeah, education's got to change. We've been talking about that for a long time, the business model and the curriculum. Like you said, the curriculum in K through 12 hasn't changed in 50 years? It's the same thing,
Right. Same methodology, same processes, same standardized approach, which is another thing that you have to talk about when you're talking about this, is we are not, anytime you standardize an approach, you literally alienate about 98% of the student population in their gifted area.
Right.
So if they don't fit into this pedagogy or approach to teaching, then they lose out. There are some kids that are highly artistic. There are some kids that are highly mechanical. There are some kids who are intellectual in approach and thought, and every last one of them need to be approached in their gifted area, because that's their means to excelling in life and operating at the highest level. That's not what happens here. And since the school system isn't designed to do it, then we have to confront it on the front end and literally prepare our children moving forward to find ways. And then we have to look at the school system and say, okay, what can we get out of this while also being able to supplement how our child is learning, so that our child goes into a world prepared to excel in an area where they're literally gifted to excel. There's an old biblical verse that says that your gift will make room for you and bring you before great men. The problem is 98% of our kids are never even exposed to their gift. They don't even know it's there. Why? Because they're literally taught to judge themselves based off of how well they do in a system that they may not excel in.
I give you an example of that, Rick. When college students come to college, we look at Maslow's growth and development, right? But there's a theorist out there, and you guys can go out at any time and research him. He's A.W. Chickering. Chickering writes the 7 vectors of a college student, and vector 1 is competency. And and what he says in vector 1 is, am I competent enough to even be in college? Because that's what college kids are talking about in their freshman year. How competent am I? Because they've heard for 12 years of their academic career at the secondary level that they may not have the competency and skills that other kids had. So now they question their own ability. So what we have to do from a student development standpoint is to coach them out of that competency fear, and let them know that they are competent enough to be there.
Absolutely.
And then there are other vectors that he talks about as well in the development of a student, where he goes into autonomy, reaching for that autonomy. So as we teach these things and we look at growth of a student and how we develop these students, we have to understand that we cannot take the ability of a kid to think that they're not competent enough. We have to teach competency, and we have to develop our theory around all students' competencies, not just standardization.
Right.
So how do we get this kid to that competency level? And now we're really building this, what I call this confidence in a student to go and walk and talk anywhere in the world.
Absolutely. And that's why we need teachers that look like us, because that's a big part of it, fostering intelligence. A lot of times people think, well, that kid is smart. But then when you peel back the layers, you see that their parents started them reading at 2-3 years old.
Right.
If you can't read, you can't learn anything.
Right.
If you can't read, you can't learn math, science, history, and all the other things. So it's all
if you can't read, I think that we have to even look at it even deeper. And people talk to me often about, a lot I get from clients and potential clients that are coming into the Visionetics Institute. And it's like, well, yeah, doc, you're telling me to do this. You're confident because you've got this many degrees and you wrote this many books and you did. And I said, actually, when I started, I didn't have any of that.
Right.
The confidence was embedded in me before I ever started.
Exactly.
And here's what I can tell you. The best thing that my grandmother ever did to me is sit me down at 2 years old and teach me to read.
Right.
Now, she did it with a switch and a Bible.
Right.
We could have did without that. But I mean, in essence was she ignited something in me, because that's literally why I am who I am, is because you can't keep anything from me. If it's in a book, long before there was an internet, there was libraries.
Right.
And if it was in a book, I was going to find it.
Right.
And that's the thing. If you don't learn how to read, you can't, in an autonomous way, advance yourself. You're constantly asking someone else for permission or access. But if you know how to read, especially in today's society where you can pick on a computer and type in a word and it goes out and finds exactly what you're looking for and brings back all the results. And then you learn how to do that, because you're going to first start out like everybody else. You're going to do it from a biased position. You're going to go out and ask the question from your position. But once you learn how to go out and put the right keywords in, it brings back both points of views, everything in the middle, and you start to connect that and figure that thing out. And before you know it, nobody can stop you. I mean, nobody. And that's where you're at right now. And you talk about core competency, and then you talk about confidence. The biggest problem is confidence. If I go into any environment without confidence, I lag in the most important element of advancement, decision making.
Exactly.
If I don't make a decision and move, I lose the opportunity. And access to opportunity is everything. So I'm study waiting and I'm trying to figure it out, but I don't have the confidence. And then what I'm gonna say this, and then I'll turn it back over to you guys. When I talk to people, I talk about confidence. Confidence isn't just simply thinking I'm going to always make the right decision. Confidence is also saying if I make the wrong decision, I'm a bad enough dude that I'm going to figure out how to get back and do it right the next time.
Exactly.
So what happens then is now I don't fear failing.
Exactly. It's amazing that you say that, Doc. One of the things in the course when we're working with student athletes, and we're working with males now, working with 17, 18-year-old, 19, 20, 21-year-old males. When we think about their ability to make great decisions, and I always tell parents and I tell people who are working with young men, do not fault them for the decisions that they make at this age because of frontal lobe development. So do not fault them for the decisions that they make because they're still developing, and that lobe may not, that frontal lobe may not be developed until they're 30 years old. And they're going to look back at a lot of the things they made, decisions that they made, a lot of the bonehead things they said and go, man, that was dumb. I shouldn't have, but again, we talk about development. And then some people are not, some people who are working with students don't have the patience to understand what that means. And particularly, high school kids, they get a bad rap because the patience of the people who are working with them, not understanding that they're going through, growth and development. They're going through frontal lobe development. And what does all this mean to the academic approach?
Absolutely.
All of it plays a factor because I can go out there on the football field or the baseball field and I can run a kid forever. I can discipline a kid forever. But at the end of the day, when he leaves me, will he make the right decision?
Bam. Oh, man. You done danced all up in my space now. You done got me hyped, man. I'm trying to calm down. I'm going to sit up and breathe, Rick, breathe. But you talk about the frontal lobe or the prefrontal cortex, and you're talking about executive function. You're talking about the ability to make reasonable and rational decisions and how rapidly that develops or how it develops in young men. And people don't understand that. Everything it does like this. And what you have to understand is, especially in public school, you have young Black males who come in. There's a cultural separation because we're talking about the vast majority of the teachers being white middle-class women,
right?
White middle-aged women. And you're talking about young Black males coming from a completely different culture where things are different, responses and reactions are different, and that he's still in an almost completely instinctive state of existence. He has not yet refined the capacity to access the frontal lobe to search for the right responses. Correct. So he's going to instinctively respond, and he immediately puts that white middle-aged teacher in defensive mode. He's 5. She's afraid of it.
Exactly.
Because she hasn't seen behavior like that.
Right.
So what does she do? She refers him because now he's got to be either oppositionally defiant, suffering from ADHD, autistic, or some other learning disability, and he needs to be in special education.
Right.
And I've written a position paper on the disproportionality of special education referrals for young Black males.
Right.
And it's unbelievable. And those are the things that you look at. We're not saying, okay, should we be asking a 7-year-old to sit still for 3 hours? I mean, should we really be asking them? What does the research say about how we learn? Well, when we actually look at it, kids under the age of 10 tend to learn better by being active and emotionally ignited. So music, movement, exploration are ways to learn. Right.
Oh, and you're correct. It's amazing that you say that. I had a friend who he went to Cuba to the University of Cuba, and he got a scholarship to go there because Cuba will let you come and study at their university totally for free if you can speak the language. He couldn't speak the language, and he told me, he said, and so when he came back home, he spoke fluent Spanish. Now he said, Mike, I can't write it, but I can speak it. And I said, well, how did you learn fluent Spanish? He said, well, here's what I did. Just what you said, Dr. Rick. He said, I actionized everything about my life in Cuba. I shut off all English. I shut off all English music, anything to do with English. I shut it off. He said he started learning the Spanish from the music and going in the grocery store and shopping for groceries every day. And he said before he knew it, he was speaking fluent Spanish.
Wow.
And doing well at the university and graduated with a physical education degree from the University of Cuba. And I said, wow.
Isn't it amazing how powerful the brain is?
Yeah.
When you know how to access it and use it.
Yeah.
When I went through, it kind of reminded me when I went through a difficult time in my life where I was coming back from the worst setback of my life.
Mm-hmm.
I did a big part of my recovery in a Hispanic community.
Yeah.
It's where I landed, and a friend of mine got me a space. It was mine, and it was in this community. First month or so there, they were kind of looking at me,
yeah,
and kind of distant. But then I became a part of the community.
Yep.
So everything in there, every place you walk into, everybody's speaking Spanish.
Yeah.
And so English doesn't work. So what's the use of using it?
Exactly.
Now I'm just starting over, so I have no television. I don't keep a radio, so I'm not hearing English. So now I'm able to walk in, make my orders, and now, man, I'm stopping the little lady with the popsicle cart, and we having a conversation. But I also picked up on how their culture works.
Yeah.
They are a community.
All day long.
Nobody starves in the community.
Right.
It blew my mind. There's a guy that would sit at the bus stop. Older guy. We would call him a wino.
Yeah.
Well, this guy, he shows up every day. About 6 o'clock in the morning, he plops down. The first set of people come through. They're going to buy him something for breakfast. Make sure he got his smokes. And he's got something to drink. Noon, another group comes through. He's sitting there and he's just chilling at the bus stop. And that's like he's a part of the community. Now they're feeding him. He's, they bring him, a couple of burritos or whatever it is, sit him down, give him a beer. And he's there, and then he checks out at night, and I don't know where he goes. He probably goes home to a 6-bedroom house. I don't know. But I know that he's eating good.
Right.
And they would check in on me. But what I'm saying is that brain is unbelievable, the things it can do. It's the most powerful supercomputer on the planet.
Oh, for sure.
There's no computer that can process information the way the brain is. We simply don't know how to optimize it and use it. And we are normally restricted to what we're told we can do.
Correct.
And so we never explore the possibility of doing everything. And so when we look at somebody like these little kids that come in and they're a part of Mensa and they're getting their PhDs at 14, and we're going, oh my God, they just accessed it. That's all it is. They didn't allow somebody, whatever happened in the early stages of their development, there wasn't those restrictions and paradigms that squeezed them.
Right.
And all that is taking those restrictions off and saying, let your imagination create your reality. And when you start allowing your imagination to create your reality, there's absolutely nothing that you can't do.
Sky's the limit.
Yeah, absolutely.
Sky's the limit, guys.
Hey, Doc, talk a little bit about, a lot of people have said I only have noops on the show. So I had to bring one of my Q brothers on the show.
Yeah, he real heavy with them noops, man. Got him up here trying to recruit me post grad on here.
So they've been trying to, them Q's been trying to get at Dr. Wallace, and we Noops been trying to get at Dr. Wallace, trying to bring him in the fold.
Yeah.
So I said, hey, I got to bring Dr. Grant on, but let's talk a little bit about Doc, how the fraternities and sororities also shape socialization and student growth. I know for me, man, you were talking a little bit earlier about the HBCU and your experience in that. But for me at Indiana University, at a predominantly white college, with Indiana University being our Alpha chapter, and we had a home on Frat Road. It seemed like I was on HBCU because I woke up every morning to all brothers, in the house.
Yeah.
We had over close to 100 brothers in the house, and we had a house on the same frat road as the white fraternities and sororities. So that kind of helped socialize me and helped. I was confident before, but it just boosted the confidence even more. Talk about that because there's a long history of fraternities and sororities and athletes. You being a coach. Talk a little bit about how that has helped students.
I think with fraternities and sororities, man, it's all about inclusivity. We get into certain organizations, man, because we think that know that it's a fit for our ideology and in most cases like-mindedness. But from the scholarly approach, people see the outward side of a lot of our Divine Nine, and they see a lot of the step shows, they see a lot of the things, the things that take place festivity wise, but they're not really looking in the adeptness of the people who are actually a part of these organizations. There are some brilliant men and women who are part of the Divine Nine.
Carter G. Woodson.
Carter G. Woodson, father of Black history. Omega Psi Phi. 1922, we gave him the check to start the historical approach to Black History Week, which rolled into Black History Month.
Right.
But when we think about that, that inclusiveness that we get from being a part of these organizations. But I want to make a note here that all of these organizations were formed for a sense of equality.
Absolutely.
This is where our mission still lies when we take our fraternity letters and we go into our graduate chapters and we come back home to our communities. We still have to understand that we are working to help people who don't have a voice. We have to be that voice. Again, Dr. Rick talks about literacy, and so it is us who have obtained this level of literacy that we're able to go back now into our communities, taking it from the college campus to our communities to create and help others with this equity and inclusion. So and when they do have issues, because we see the Divine Nine in our schools, we see it in our corporate offices, we see it everywhere, and but we have to understand that it's still centered around equality. And are we seeing equality? We're all part of Greek organizations and we're still working towards equality every day. You see a big push right now for DE&I, because we've now got to teach DE&I to professionals around the world, and organizations are now having to embrace DE&I. But we knew that. We knew that as a part of being a part of a Greek organization. We understood, inclusion and inclusivity and what diversity looks like and what equity looks like on a daily basis, because this is what we were being taught. This is what we were being missioned to do. And this was our mission once we left the campus, as we went back out into our prospective communities and embraced the culture of our communities. We also said, here's what I'm bringing back from a leadership perspective and an organization perspective.
Absolutely. Doc, talk a little bit more about the service you provide. So if someone has a student athlete who may not be making those 16 qualifications, whether it's Division I, Division II, take us through the services you'll provide that individual. So how they contact you and all that too.
Right. So we wrap ourselves around, several services when we're working with these student athletes. Many of them may come to us already ready. You know, when we do that evaluation of that transcript, they may have the 16 required, and we still offer them courses. Our tuition, because we are tuition based, you know, it provides for up to 2 to 3 courses that they may need. And we you know, and we give them those courses to get eligible for the NCAA. Remember that the kids that are coming to us are unsigned athletes. Many of them hadn't registered with the NCAA. Many of them may have gotten overlooked throughout the recruitment process. As we look to the National Signing Day process, may have gotten overlooked or just didn't make the cut. So what we do is we work with these kids as it relates to getting them organized for the NCAA, getting them the 16 required within the 5 months that they're with us. And then we also act as an admissions advisor where we help these kids apply to over 40 to 50 schools while they're with us. And we pay for those applications.
Wow. Okay.
And then when they leave us, one of our services as well is we will give them up to $500. We'll give them up to $500 of placement funding through what we call a post-grad grant from our academy to help these kids get situated at their next school, whether it's paying for a residence hall or a book. And then we track our kids. Like I was telling you guys earlier, we track them for 4 years. We have a tracking system in place where we track these kids to make sure that they graduate. So we work with these families through what we call almost a private guidance counselor or a private advisor. You know, because once you come into the academy, you don't just play sports with us. We also get you organized academically, and then we work, you know, to talk and communicate to colleges and universities around the country and coaches to let them know that you're here. Another service we provide is we give them new film. We go and we give them new film from a new competitive approach that we send out to colleges and universities around the country that are looking for mid-year transfers. And we go in and we talk with those coaches. And a lot of our friends who are still full-time coaches, they'll call me and say, "Doc, I know you got some guys in your camp, man. I know you. I know how you recruit." So we give them our roster, and we say, "Hey, these are kids. All these kids we've vetted, all these kids we've evaluated, and all these kids can come in and be impactful with your program." The one thing I tell kids, and I tell kids and their families, we enhance your student athlete's IQ for the game of football. So when they leave us, you know, they should be able to walk into any practice, any segment room or position room, be able to talk with any head coach or position coach and understand the game that they're playing. And they will know that your IQ is where it needs to be for the next level. And so we work, you know, to make sure that these kids increase that IQ and also their athletic skill ability as well.
So does the academy deal with diet and exercise and all that other stuff too?
We do. You know, one of our approach to this is holistic. So, you know, we do have a strength conditioning program that works with these kids to work on strength conditioning. When we talk about the diet approach, it's funny that you ask that, Mike, because I talk to parents all the time about, you know, giving kids these meals. I said, you know, a lot of times they're not going to eat them. We know they're not going to eat them. They're going to go to fast food. They're going to get the things that they want to eat. Right. And I tell the parents, I have to be honest with you. I'm going to run it out of them. And I'll tell them up front, if you go down and you continue to eat that junk, we're going to run it out of you in practice. And then you'll start making a more healthier choice because you'll see that that's not giving you any energy. So we work with the Boys and Girls Club, and we'll be working with the food bank here in St. Lucie County to help us provide some healthy meals to these kids, you know, for lunch and dinner. Because again, a part of growing as a student athlete is getting the right food in and having a good strength conditioning program.
Outstanding, man. Outstanding. Dr. Rick and I, man, we look forward to working with you and partnering with you and
please do, man.
Involved in the academy, man, in the future. Doc, you want to wrap it up for us?
First of all, man, it has been a blessing and an honor to have this conversation with you again. I look forward to actually connecting with you and working with you, especially with some of the things I'm trying to do with Black Men Lead, which at the core is a rite of passage initiative, which is about socializing young Black males into specifically racially socializing young Black men into an understanding and an acknowledgement and an identity of Black manhood, as well as providing wraparound services for young adult males up to the age 30 and beyond. And so I definitely appreciate the conversation. I think we need to extend it. I think one of the wraparound services that we have added as a core element, it's always been there because we're always concerned about the mental health of our boys and young men in the community. With the spike in suicides over the last couple of years, there was a study out that showed between 2013 and 2019 that there was a 47% increase in suicides among young Black males between the age of 15 and 24. That's astronomical. That's devastating. It's catastrophic on the impact it has on the community, not just the families, which in and of itself is horrible, but the community itself and what we can expect from our male population. So we're working on all of those things. For those people who want to support the work, the links are in the description box. We're definitely looking to partner with people who bring a unique skill set, experience. So you have definitely excited me with what you're doing, and I want to support as well what you're doing because we need people to know you exist, because there's this bridge that most people don't know. People are crossing the stream and running into all kind of peril, and there's a bridge. And so we need to make them aware of the bridge. And I see you as being a bridge when it comes to moving from high school into higher learning. So on that note, I want to thank you on behalf of my partner, Dr. Michael K. Blanchard. We definitely thank you. We're going to get out of here. I'm going to go take care of myself in this sinus infection.
All right.
And everybody, thanks for stopping by. Also, Kay, man, I really appreciate one thing he shared, though. I'm going to read this last thing. First of all, my condolences go out to you and your family, Kay. But he one of the last statements he posted was, he says, "Facts, Dr. Grant and Dr. Wallace. When I was in college, I didn't know about financial literacy. I know Black men would understand and be successful if they have the knowledge of business and economics." And I think that's got to be a focal point. So again, thank everybody. Doc, you hit another one out of the park with bringing Dr. Grant on. So thanks for that. So everybody, thanks once again. We'll see you on next Saturday from the Teachers.